In this section, we're going to look at the back deck roll. So the back deck roll is any movement that brings you up where you start from the back of the boat, as opposed to maybe your standard roll, which is over the front of the boat. This is going to include lessons on how to build that movement through using somebody's boat. It's going to include how to be stood in the water to help somebody. It's going to include a reverse screw, which is a nice stepping stone to that back deck roll, and the back deck roll itself. We're also going to go on to how you might take that onto moving water, similar to the sort of stretch behind me here. So the scenario here, we've got a bit of float and it's leading right into this wall that doesn't look very nice. It's got a bit of a cushion wave on it, there's water kind of going everywhere. If I was paying attention to just this, rather than what's happening here, I could easily go in with my boat flat and trip over those edges. If I went with standard screw roll towards the front of the boat, that might take time. So I might find myself rolling up on the wall. This is where the back deck can come in, the back deck roll. I can be over and up very, very quickly, keeping the momentum as I leave the eddy. So, paddled into the flow, drop my edges, I'm over, I'm up, and I'm carrying on very quickly.
Before we look at all the details and go through a structured approach to learning this roll, let's have a little overview of the whole roll. A key thing we need to do is to rotate our wrist back to get our blade into the correct orientation so that we've got a climbing blade as we use the paddle. Actually, we're going to end up with both blades climbing. We'll look at this later, but we want to be able to keep those blades climbing to keep them close to the surface. With this support that we're generating from the paddle, we can then use it to help move the kayak over the top of us. What's quite unique about this roll is that we use both blades. And when our leading blade comes out of the water, the blades will switch over and we'll use the other paddle blade to finish the roll off.
One of the things that I see with paddlers on the river, and I guess we've all done it, is been moved into this position here, either because it's right on top of where we're comfortable or the force of the water has moved us here. So if I'm going for my normal screw roll from the front of the boat, upside down I have to move myself forwards and into this position before I can even think about coming back up. The plus with anything towards the back of the boat, back deck roll, reverse screw, if I've been moved to here, I'm already in my setup.
So if you find yourself upside down towards the back deck, we don't need to get forwards into a setup position, we can just roll from there. It's possible to vary the finishing position of the back deck roll. We can start at the back and also then finish with our body at the back. Finishing at the back is a great variation. Once we've come up, we can then just simply sit back into the upright position. You can also finish this roll where you're in more of a C-to-C position, out to the side. However, throughout these lessons, we're going to focus on finishing with our body over the front deck. So we're going to be starting at the back, bringing our body forwards and using a climbing blade as we sweep it forwards. To help us develop this sweeping forwards, finishing over the front deck motion, we're going to be using the reverse screw roll as a stepping stone to learning the back deck roll. The reverse screw starts at the back deck, uses a climbing blade angle, and effectively from this point onwards is the same as the back deck roll. It's also a really useful roll in practical terms for using on the river.
The last bit of the reverse screw that you saw there is very, very similar to the movement that I would use with a back deck roll to bring myself up. The only thing that's different is how I get into that position. So with the reverse screw, it's a wind up, top hand onto my shoulder, and with the back deck roll, one blade skims the surface to start to move me into the position, and I'm reaching behind me. Then the rolling blade makes contact and I'm moving forwards again.
Don't worry if you aren't following everything right now. We're going to be breaking this into stages, working with a partner and looking at ways to develop all the skills individually. There is a myth with the back deck roll that you're more exposed than you are with the standard screw roll. However, when you're in the back deck roll position, your head isn't that deep into the water. You're quite near the surface. And also your arms and your paddle shaft do offer some protection.
I hear a lot of talk about how exposed to the bottom of the river you can be with either reverse screw or back deck roll. And to be honest, this movement towards the back of the boat here has made me quite shallow. Yes, if I didn't have paddles or elbows in the way, there might be some exposure there, but if you think about the setup, once I've moved into my reverse screw position here, then my elbow is in the way, likely to take the impact, and if I've rotated, so is the corner of my shoulder. Once I've gone into my my back deck roll position here, then the paddle's right in front of me. So if anything's going to make impact, anything's going to touch the bottom, it's the paddle shaft. If you think about setting up over the front, as I tuck forward with some flexibility, this is probably as far forwards as I can get. And yes, I can rotate into it and drop my head, but I'm now almost closer to it, and it's top of head that's going to take it. So for me, I don't have an issue with that back deck roll and the exposure because it's actually a little bit quicker. I can be over and up in the time that it would take for me to move into this position, pause, and go through the movement.
So not only is the roll super fast, meaning that you're back up and out of the water as quickly as possible, you're also quite shallow. When you're leaning towards the back deck, your head isn't as low into the water. If we have a look at Dan doing a standard screw roll here, you can see that his head goes a lot lower and is much closer to the rocks as he does the roll. Let's have a look at these as a side by side, and you can see quite clearly the difference between the two rolls.
Anything towards the back of the boat comes with myths about shoulder injuries. Yes, shoulder injuries have happened from bodies and arms being in odd positions. That's not necessarily linked to rolling off the back of the boat. That's linked to a huge extend and then either catching a rock or catching a jet of water that's moved your shoulder where you don't want it to. So rather than the extend with the arms, the extend happens with the body, and these elbows are staying in that nice safe position.
So now that we've looked at an overview of the back deck roll, it's time to move on to the next lesson, where we're going to be focusing on getting our body technique right before we start moving on to using the paddle.
Fantastic.